Want to render like this? In this video, I'll show you how I light the exact same asset in Maya, Blender and Marmoset Toolbag, so you can recreate this look in your own project. Let's start with Maya. First, I'll set my render resolution. In this case, I'm rendering at 2K, but you can choose whatever suits your project. Next, I'll create and lock my camera so the composition stays consistent while I work on the lighting. For the base lighting, I'm using HDRI inside a sky dome. This gives the model soft ambient lighting and realistic reflection without making the scene look flat. Now it's time for the key light. This is the most important light in the scene because it defines the overall shape and form of the asset. I always keep Arnold render view open while adjusting the light so I can immediately see how every change affects in the final render. Increase your render samples only as much as necessary. Higher values reduce noise, but they also increase the render time significantly. Next, I'll duplicate the area light to create the rim light because it behind the model helps separates the asset from the background and makes the silhouette stand out. I usually keep the rim light slightly stronger than the fill light so the edges stay crisp. Finally, I'll add the fill light. Its job isn't to overpower the key light, it's simply there to soften harsh shadows and recover the details in the dark areas. And that's the complete Maya setup. Now let's recreate the same exact lighting inside the blender and add an HDRI to the world shader. After adding the texture coordinates, I can rotate the HDRI until the lighting direction matches the Maya set. For the realistic renders, I recommend using cycles instead of EV. If your system has dedicated GPU, enable the GPU rendering to speed the things up. Under color management, I'm using AGX because it produces a more natural dynamic range. Later, I'll switch look punchy for little more contrast. Now I'll position the camera. Using camera to view, make it much easier to frame the asset exactly the way I want. Just like before, I'll render at 2K to keep the comparison consistent. The lighting workflow is exactly the same. First comes the HDRI for ambient lighting, then the key light followed by the rim light to separate the model from the background. Finally, a softer fill light to control the shadow. If you want slightly more contrast, switch the AGX looks to punchy. It gives the render little bit more depth without making it look over-processed. Once everything looks good, press Ctrl plus F12 to render the final image. Finally, let's recreate the same lighting inside the Marmoset Toolbag. I'll start by adding an HDRI to the skylight. Then I'll darken the background so the model becomes the main focus. Before touching the lights, I always spend a minute adjusting the camera and post-processing. Small changes to exposure, contrast, bloom, and tone mapping can make a huge difference. Just like before, the lighting starts with the key light, followed by the rim light and the fill light. This time I also added few extra spotlights to emphasize certain details on the model. There is no fixed number of lights you should use. Add only what improves the final image. As you can see, every software has its own renderer and the default look, but the lighting principle stays exactly the same. Once you understand the HDRIs, key lights and rim lights and fill lights, you can create great looking renders in almost any 3D software. Which renderer do you prefer? Maya, Blender or Marmoset? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see the Unreal Engine version next, subscribe and don't miss it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.